Alright. Seeing as it's fucking dead, I may as well do part 4. Mental health, part 4. The Changing Man. I've called it that because the phase I'm going to talk about was one of quite significant change for me, you know. In a lot of ways. But yeah, obviously, The Changing Man is a Paul Weller song. I'm a changing man. But yeah, and this phase that I was heading into around the year 2000, my 30th birthday that year, I became a musician. Fucking hell, man. I say I became a musician. I started playing the guitar, didn't I? I taught myself how to play guitar. I'd been kind of inspired, obviously, by a lot of bands and that, but mainly I was inspired by a bunch of mates. I used to go and run my mate's flat, my mate Eddie, and a load of lads used to come run for a sesh and play the guitar, you know. And these were, you know, some of them were bad lads, like been in and out of jail and that, you know. But they played one of them had learned to play the guitar in prison, and he was fucking shit hot. And there was a few of them used to play together, jamming, you know. And I used to sit there. I used to sing sometimes. They used to play, and sometimes I'd sing. I'd be the vocals when we're all smashed. But it was just great, you know. And I was inspired by that. I'd always wanted to play the guitar, but I'd never been motivated enough to stick at it. I tried a couple of times. My brother could play guitar, and I'd tried. I just couldn't get away with it, man. It was too hard, too fucking hard. It required some real fucking patience and determination, and I just didn't have enough of that for that particular activity until this point. I think I must have been about 30, the early 30s anyway, and I bought myself an acoustic. I got some fucking chord books and that. I got like a basic guitar learning book, and I learned myself. I watched some of my favourite musicians on the telly and stuff, and I just cracked on. Even after, you know, I stopped going round Eddie's flat. I stopped smoking cannabis, so I didn't go around Eddie's anymore, and I stuck with the guitar. I carried on, and I think the reason I carried on was because I started writing my own songs. I don't think I would have stuck to it if it wasn't for that, because I wasn't really interested in playing other people's songs. I mean, I did enjoy doing a few Oasis tunes, but mainly I once I could play 3 chords, I was writing my own songs. And I did a bit of I recorded a few of them just through a daft mic on a cassette recorder, and I took the tape round my mates and I played it to him, and he was quite taken aback, and he says, "Fucking hell, you've got a natural ability there, you should stick with this." And you know, he was really impressed. Well, I thought they were shite, but he was really impressed, and that kind of gave us the kick up the arse, really, to keep going. After that, I just went on this fucking proper mission. I was fucking playing the guitar for hours every day, writing everything I could, knocking out songs all over the fucking place. I mean, looking back now, they were shite. Them early songs, they were shite. But I just got better at it, you know. I got better at it, to the point where I started going to buskers nights in Sunderland city centre, and one night I was in a buskers night. I cannot remember who I was with, but it was a pub called Berlin's in Vine Place. It's not there now. It's somewhere else now. It's still a pub, but it's somewhere else. And they had a buskers night on every Tuesday night, and I used to go and I used to watch them, and I never had the balls to get up and do it myself. But one night I'd had enough to drink where I just thought, fuck it, I'm gonna have a go. I was pissed like. And I got up and I think I played a cover. I can't remember what it was, probably an Oasis tune. Nobody was impressed. Nobody thought that was fucking great at all, you know. It was just like, whatever, we've heard this before, you know what I mean? But then I did one of my own songs, and it was called That Time of the Month, and it was basically a bit of a piss take of, I mean, it's awful to say now because I hate sexism, but back then I wasn't clued up. I was sexist, like most blokes are, you know what I mean? And I'd wrote this song called That Time of the Month, and it was about when women are on the menstrual cycle, and, you know, they can be a bit moody, or some can be a bit moody. Well, I was stereotyping, obviously, I was generalising, and I was saying that all women are like this. But I was singing about a mythical partner. I was singing about our lass, really, but I was exaggerating everything, you know what I mean? It wasn't true to fact. But it was comedy, and of a type, and every fucker thought it was great. I got this reaction from the people in the pub. I mean, they fucking give a shit about the first song I did, but this one, which was mine, which I'd wrote, they were fucking well impressed with it, and it really fucking, it gave us a hell of a boost, like, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, we didn't get that in regular life, do we? We didn't get that sort of praise. I mean, people fucking cheering you, giving you a round of fucking applause and cheering you. Most people didn't get that. You might get it if you're on stage, or like an actor, or fucking a footballer in a stadium or whatever, but most people, working class people, they go to work day in, day out, they never get a round of applause. They didn't get cheered. They didn't get people coming up at the end of their shift going, fucking hell, that was amazing, mate. You're a fucking legend. So obviously, that gave us a boost. And I wanted more. I wanted more. I couldn't get enough of that, you know what I mean? That just made me feel so good. It was like a drug in itself, you know. I'd stopped taking drugs by then, but this was like a drug. This was another form of taking drugs. It was the buzz of performing and being appreciated. And I just, I went home and I just wrote. Oh man, the songs just came out of us like fucking, just so naturally. I started writing, and I was writing for the audience. I wasn't writing for me necessarily. Obviously, I had to find them funny as well, but I was writing for that audience. I was imagining the audience listening to these songs and how would they react. And I just wrote these songs, and the songs, I couldn't wait to get back to the buskers nights every week to play these songs that nobody had heard before, because they were mine. They were brand new, out from my brain. No one had ever heard them, and I wanted to see the reaction. And the reaction, man, was unreal. I mean, I could play 3 Oasis songs in a buskers night, and nobody would give a shit. I could play them perfectly, and no one would give a shit. I could play them better than Noel Gallagher, and no one would give a shit. But when I played these songs, because there was something about them, they were funny, but the way I worded them, the lyrics were like, I don't know, I suppose it was timing, it was just the nature of the lyrics, the way I rhymed the words. Did I have a natural ability? I don't know. Maybe. But no one had done this before in the Buskers nights, and or you know, in the same way as I was doing it, and it just made people really fucking enjoy themselves, you know. People loved it, like, and I became quite well known. And as soon as I walked in a pub, if there was a Buskers night on, people would want us to play. They'd be like, "Oh, here he's here, get him on." And yeah, looking back at that period, it was quite fucking incredible for someone that had never been praised. Really, I'd never been praised in my life. My mum and dad didn't fucking praise us much. They put us down more than anything. You know, you grow up, every fucker puts you down. You get fucking put down at school. If you're not the best in the class, you know, school work, you get put down. If you're fucking not the best footballer, best fighter, best whatever, you get put down. Everybody's putting everybody down. Oh, you haven't got that. You've got scabby trainers on. You haven't got the best trainers. Some fucker's putting you down. Everywhere you go, people put you down. You go to work, the fucking boss puts you down. You feel like shit because you're doing some job that you hate. Nobody praises you, man. Nobody. And then suddenly I'm getting praised. Well, of course, I fucking enjoyed that. Of course I did. Of course I did. I loved it. But, like with anything, it wasn't gonna last. I started to see, this is the mad thing, right? At the same time as I was writing these songs, becoming more and more popular, and by the way, I started selling CDs at Buskers nights, and somehow from that, some of the songs got online and became ringtones. People back then, mobile phones were still quite new, but ringtones were like really popular. Everybody was like getting their own special ringtones on the phones, and my songs became ringtones. And I'd be at work picking people up in the taxi, and phones would go off, and it would be me singing on their fucking phones. And I'd be like, sometimes I'd say a note, you know, but other times I'd be like, "That's me, that," and they'd be like, "Fuck off." I loved the fact I was anonymous, but my music was on people's phones all over the place, but nobody knew it was me. I liked that. That was quite unique, and yeah, I enjoyed that. But I never let it get into my head, you know. I never started thinking I was better than anyone, because at that same time, this is what I was going to say before, till I got off track. At the same time as I was writing these songs, I was taking an interest in politics, and I was slowly becoming a socialist. So some of the ideas I was discovering, political ideas, were conflicting with the material I was producing. So that was a really interesting head fuck, really, because I was creating because I loved the buzz of creating and the buzz of performing and the buzz of getting appreciated from the creation and the performance. But at the same time, I was developing these ideas which were like anti-ego, anti-individual. It was more about working class societal progress, and you know, rather than it being about me, I should be more interested in it being about everyone, you know. So I was getting personal praise, and at the same time starting to think I didn't deserve this because everybody else is still miserable. Do you know what I mean? So I was acting selfishly but thinking selflessly. So I had this conflict. And also the material I was creating was sexist, and I was learning about anti-sexism. So there was another conflict, and everything was in contradiction. And that would come to a head eventually. But for a while I was torn between these two personalities, these two worlds. And that's gonna mess with your head, isn't it? That's gonna mess with your fucking head. But yeah, it was an interesting time in my life. The changing man. I'm glad I went through that. But I could only come out the other side as one person. I couldn't continue to be two different people, if you know what I mean. I couldn't carry on with that split personality. I had to make a decisive move at some point to be one or the other. And, well, I chose socialism over myself. I chose socialism over personal gain. I gave it all up. I gave up the music. I gave up the performances. I gave up the praise. And I jumped into the deep end with left-wing politics. But I'll talk about that in another video. See you in a bit. Ta-ra.